Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the evening Board of County Commissioners meeting to order for Tuesday, January 10th. And would you all please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. So some general guidelines for the meeting. This is a legislative hearing and stuff. So this is an opportunity where we can listen to you as we try and shape a solution to a challenge that we're confronting. So appreciate if there'd be no cheering, applause, outburst, anything else. If you want to speak, then please fill out one of the yellow slips, and we'll take them in order, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. And I'll go over that a little bit more when we get closer to the hearing. We're going to start out the meeting with a presentation by staff, and we've got representatives from both the county planning department, and also our clean air agency, and then we'll get into the hearing itself. But before we get into that stage of the meeting, one of the things we do provide for folks is an open public forum. So if you are down here to share any comments, insights, with the Board of County Commissioners that does not have to deal with our agenda item for this evening, this is an opportunity for you to come down and do that. I do not have anybody signed up for a public forum, so I'll ask 3 times, is there anybody here that would like to provide any testimony during the open public forum? Anybody wanting to provide testimony in the open public forum? Third and final call for anybody who would like to provide any testimony. Seeing nobody come to the podium, we will then go to our next item on the agenda, which is the hearing. And this is a hearing in the matter of the interim ordinance that was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of Spokane County for the production of marijuana in the unincorporated Spokane County, adopted under resolution number 16-0915. This, before I get into more explanation on that, also, if you're in the audience and you have a cell phone, please turn it off. Turn it on to vibrate, or in some manner disable it so that it doesn't ring and disturb the rest of the hearing. If you have to take a call, please go out on the foyer or upstairs and take your call. If you're engaged in a conversation with your neighbor, please take that outside the room. This is out of respect to the people that are giving a presentation or speaking to us, and so I'd appreciate your consideration. The purpose of tonight's hearing is that when the Board of County Commissioners adopts an interim zoning regulation, within 60 days, we have to have a public meeting on whether we're going to keep that interim zoning regulation in place. We're going to extend it for a period of time, which is typically 6 months by statute, or otherwise repeal it. This is not a hearing to talk about the merits of marijuana, what a great industry it is, your experiences as it relates to the industry, anything like that. The reason why this interim ordinance was adopted is because, quite frankly, we have a challenge in the county in dealing with the odor that's giving off by the plant when it buds. And both the county and the Clean Air Agency have struggled with this challenge. We have got now one property owner that has actually gone to the Board of Equalization and asked for their property taxes to be adjusted to reflect the fact that their property isn't worth what it used to be because of the odor. And so this is a challenge for us, and we're trying to find a solution. And so I'm hoping that out of the hearing tonight or out of the discussions we're going to have, that we'll find a solution to try and address this problem. I know that the Clean Air Agency has been meeting with a number of stakeholders over the past several months, almost a year now, trying to find a solution, and have not reached a solution through that effort. So hopefully out of this collective body and the work that county staff and other agencies will do, we'll find a solution. That's our goal. The alternative to finding a solution is to, as we have with the interim ordinance, just not allow outdoor grows at all in the county in terms of permitting for future grows. That's an action that some other counties in the state have taken. And as I look out in the audience, I can see some familiar faces for when we adopted the original ordinance. And back then, we even said that this is new territory for the county and it's new territory for the state. And we adopted an ordinance, but with the full recognition that we might have to come back and amend it. And like I said, this is a learning process, and I think this is the first time that we've coming back on the original ordinance and taking a look at what kind of amendments do we need to do to make sure that not only does the industry prosper, but the neighbors for those that are in the industry are not carrying an undue hardship or burden as a result of being located next to one of the grows. So that's the overall goal for this evening. Kind of laid out the framework. I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners if there's anything else that you would like to add before we turn the meeting over to our staff for a presentation. Okay, so Mr. Peterson, why don't we start with you, and then I think Ms. Oliver also has a presentation that we'll make from the Clean Air Agency. This is merely just laying the foundation for part of our conversation this evening.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, John Peterson, Planning Director. As you've introduced, the purpose of tonight's hearing is for you to consider the interim ordinance that was adopted on November 29th in Resolution 16-0915. That interim ordinance has the effect of prohibiting outdoor production of marijuana in rural Spokane County. And as you know, the IZO was adopted in response to numerous complaints that the Board of County Commissioners and or the Clean Air Agency have received regarding the odor from marijuana production. The record does include, I think there's a 3-ring binder that was provided to the board that has the extensive complaint history from Clean Air Agency. And also the record should include the packet before you tonight that Gina has prepared for you that includes the comments that were received by staff and the board in response to the interim ordinance. By way of background, I-502, as you know, was adopted in 2012. Subsequent to that, the Board of County Commissioners adopted a series of interim ordinances that addressed marijuana production, processing, and retail sale. Each of those became more specific in that iterative process that led to final text amendments to the zoning code being adopted in 2015 that were very specific, again, in addressing production, processing, and retail sale of marijuana in Spokane County, regarding the various tiers of production, the minimum lot sizes for each, as well as the setbacks from adjoining residences and the property lines for those kind of facilities. This hearing is required under the RCW state law. When you adopt an interim ordinance, you must have a public hearing within 60 days to consider public input. And also the board has to take action within that 60-day period to either affirm, modify, amend, or let the ordinance die. And that final date for that would be January 27th. So barring a decision tonight, you would need to make a decision regarding affirmation or modification of this IZO by January 27th. That's all I have at this time, unless we have any questions for myself, or Mr. Visha, or from the building department, section of our department, and from Clean Air.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Very good.
Thank you.
Ms. Oliver.
Good evening, and thank you, Commissioners, for inviting me here. My name is Julie Oliver, and I am the Executive Director at Spokane Regional Clean Air Agency. So I thought a little background might be helpful. Spokane Regional Clean Air Agency was established in 1969 under the State Clean Air Act. The agency enforces federal, state, and local laws to reduce air pollution within Spokane County. We're governed by a 5-member board of directors. We are funded by federal and state grants, permit fees, and local assessments. We work with over 600 commercial and industrial operations throughout the county. We have experienced staff that are knowledgeable on a wide range of air pollution control technologies and operational practices designed to minimize air pollutants, including odors. So, under the state law, odors are air pollution. They are, by definition, an air contaminant. And air contaminants are air pollution under the state law. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and read this one. Air pollution is the presence in the outdoor atmosphere of one or more air contaminants in sufficient quantities and of such characteristics and duration as is or is likely to be injurious to human health, plant or animal life or property, or which unreasonably interferes with enjoyment of life and property. So we have an odor and nuisance regulation. It's complaint-based. It was intended to address occasional individual odors and nuisances. It was never intended to be a standalone emission, never intended to be a standalone emission or performance standard to address a whole industry or a whole commercial category. In the past, complaints have helped the agency identify needs for new or additional air pollution controls, especially for new and emerging industries, including coffee roasting and mobile paint operations. Before we'll issue a notice of violation for odors, 3 conditions must be met. The first is one of our inspectors must go out to the complainant's location, and they themselves have to detect the odor at what we call a level 2 or greater on a 4-point system. 0 is no odor, and 4 is so strong that someone doesn't want to stay there. So a level 2 is really, the odors are distinct and definite, unpleasant characteristics are recognizable. It is not a 0 odor standard or threshold. The person impacted by the odor provides an affidavit. They need to basically go on the record and put their name down and explain what their impacts were and how it was affecting their lives. And they may be required to testify at a hearing if the case is challenged. And then our inspector needs to be able to identify the source of the odor. So if they can smell something but can't identify where it's coming from, we can't issue a notice of violation. This is a chart of the number of marijuana odor complaints by month that we have received. And overall, the complaints have been increasing. Between July 1st, 2014 and December 31st, 2016, we've received 216 complaints from 48 different locations. Odors can go up, loft up, and come down in different places. So it's not necessarily the wind just blows one way and always hits the same places, but 48 different locations throughout the county. So, in November of 2015, the Board of Directors for the Clean Air Agency directed staff to develop a program to minimize off-site odors from licensed producers, processors, and medical cooperatives, as well as operations resulting from future legislative or regulatory changes and industry evolution. And then to investigate options for recovering agency costs related to marijuana production and processing odors. The staff said we need some assistance with this. We are not the experts on this new and emerging industry. We need stakeholder input. So with board support, we formed a marijuana advisory committee. The purpose of the work group was to inform and make recommendations to staff on the development of a marijuana program. The group did identify possible odor control measures, including control technologies and best management practices. There is a handout in your packet that lists some of the possible control measures. And we had representation from a wide array of individuals, varied perspectives, and people brought different insights to the group. We had industry association, we had indoor and outdoor producers, processors, we had affected public, we had property rights represented, both state and local health agencies, building and planning departments, fire departments, code enforcement, law enforcement, liquor and cannabis board. Governor's Office of Innovation and Regulatory Assistance had staff, their marijuana lead individual participated, and of course, Spokane Clean Air. One of the challenges to reducing odors is right in the state regulations. No person shall cause or allow the installation or use of any means which conceals or masks an emission of an air contaminant which would otherwise violate any provisions of this chapter. And the definitions of concealment and masking are provided here for you. Experience has shown that just adding something to cover up has actually a compounding effect on making things worse rather than cumulative. So, reducing odors. Many businesses use control equipment, different technologies. They use operational practices, best management practices to address odors. Again, as I said, experience has shown various odor removal chemicals intended to hide odors instead result in a compounding effect. Without the ability to capture and contain the emissions, there's no way to treat the odors. So control technologies exist for indoor marijuana production and processing operations. To date, we haven't identified a way to effectively control or treat odors from outdoor operations. I say to date because, again, this is a new emerging industry and new things are being developed all the time. Other issues and limitations. For us, we have no control over zoning, no control over land use, or where a business chooses to site their business. And that can have negative consequences. We have operational limitations. Our agency is not staffed or funded for operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Odors are often strongest late at night or early in the morning. And this has to do with airflow, cooler temperatures, the molecular weight of the emissions. Complaints can increase during evenings or on weekends, and that's when people tend to be home more, evenings and weekends. We only respond to complaints that may be associated with licensed operations licensed by Liquor and Cannabis Board. We aren't commissioned law enforcement officers, so we don't respond to illicit operations or unlicensed operations. Other issues and limitations that we face, there are some financial limitations. Our agency is funded by federal and state grants, local assessments, and business-related fees and permits. Agency costs for marijuana-related activities from July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2016 were $144,000. Federal grants cannot be used for marijuana-related activities because at the federal level, marijuana is still a Class 1 or Schedule 1 drug and illegal. The state funds are used as a match to receive the federal funds, so they can't be used either. Local assessment funds are being used to cover these unfunded costs. Local assessment funds are paid for by the jurisdictions, the county and the 13 cities and towns within Spokane Clean Air's jurisdiction. So using the funds takes those resources away from other agency programs such as air monitoring and education, outreach, business assistance that we provide. For us at Spokane Clean Air, our priority is protecting the air that we are all breathing. So, questions at this point?
Any questions for Ms. Oliver? Commissioner O'Quinn and then Commissioner Kerns.
So back in the beginning of the year, your agency provided our staff with this booklet of,
In approximately July, I think we provided all the complaints received to date, I think it was.
the
Yeah.
document I'm looking at, I don't know what date you actually provided, but earlier this year you provided it. But as part of it, our staff went through and put together a chart of odor complaints from basically 10/14 through March of 16. And there was about 150 of them in that time frame. And the majority, 54 of the complaints were for one individual operation. There were 21, that's the second highest, that were unknown. And then literally all the rest were one or two complaints, with the exception of a 6 and a 4 in there. So really, a lot of that was driven by one individual operation, the complaints. So I'm just curious, of the 66 new ones since March, do you know where they, were they for one individual location? Can you tell me who they were for? I mean, do you have that breakdown?
I have a breakdown at the office. I do not have that with me. I can get that for you, but there were a variety of operations that we could identify. They were the source of the odors. But
Were the majority of them?
48 different locations throughout the county.
But that was for the entire, that was 2014 through 16?
Yes.
You had 148 locations, correct. But what I'm saying is that for that, from 10/14 through 3/16, of the 150 complaints, 54 of them were for one location. So was it a similar pattern since March through now? Is there one primary location or maybe two primary locations that are receiving the most complaints?
I wish I could recall the numbers. I think there are about 8 approximately that have received more than 3 or 4 complaints.
Okay, maybe you guys can send that over to us.
Yes.
That would be great, thank you.
I was hoping you could maybe touch on what you meant as far as masking, on how that process, and I know, in current law, that's not something that's an option, but you said how that can actually compound the problem. Could you touch on how that occurs?
I'm not an engineer. I will try to channel my inner engineer. We have an engineer on staff who is a chemical engineer and can explain this far better. But often when you get two different things together, they will interact. And it'll have a compounding effect rather than diminishing. And that's been his experience over the last 20 years, is when you try to cover something up or hide it, it just makes things worse. They just interact, and depending on which pollutant, which emissions, you can have compounding effects. And it can make new odors.
Okay, and I don't know how in-depth you've gone on this with your engineer. I mean, are there just certain things that you use with certain crops and certain masks that you don't use? I mean, is there potentially a solution in there to where there would be something that could help with a situation like this?
I'm reluctant to say that nothing could ever be identified, but experience has been over time that masking is just doesn't work. Part of it, you need to understand what's exactly being emitted, and currently we don't. There are a lot of different strains. We know there are a lot of different odorous emissions, but we don't have a real in-depth understanding yet of what those particular emissions are.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Oliver? Okay, thank you. Mr. Peterson, was there anything you wanted to add? Mr. Visha, is there anything that you wanted to share with us, or are you good? Okay. So, again, this is a hearing to solicit input on how to address this challenge. I noticed that a couple individuals have come in after the hearing started. If you want to provide testimony on the item before us tonight, there's a yellow sign-up sheet, and if you could deliver that to the clerk, we can get you into the queue. So far, I have 25 people signed up, and so at 3 minutes apiece, it's going to be an hour and a half in terms of testimony. If somebody else has already provided testimony that you agree with, and all you're going to do is be redundant of that, you can say, you know what, that individual has already testified for what I was going to say, and don't feel like you have to take up the time to be able to reiterate what has already been said. And again, for those that walked in late, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off. Turn it on vibrate. If you have to take a call, step out into the foyer. If you and your neighbor want to have a conversation, again, step out in the foyer, and we'll try and get through this in a judicious fashion. Again, this is a legislative process, so no clapping, no jeering, no calling out, no heckling. Appreciate it. We're here to try and learn. We're not here to try and divide. So with that, we'll start the hearing. And I do have a little timer here, and so I'll time the 3 minutes, and when you get close to the end of the 3 minutes, I'll wave at you and suggest that maybe you try and wrap up your comments. The first one that I have signed up is Crystal Oliver.
There we go. Hello, my name is Crystal Oliver, and I am the owner of a Tier 3 outdoor cannabis farm located in Spokane County. I'm actually located in District 1 in Commissioner Kerns District. We've obviously been in operation for a couple of years now. Our parcel is a 10-acre parcel. We are zoned small tract agriculture. On my particular parcel, I am neighbors with folks who raise cattle, folks who raise horses, trees, honeybees. It's not uncommon for me to be outside working on my parcel and smell horse or cow manure and hear one of my neighbors engaging in target practice on their parcel. These are all things that are, that they're permitted to do on their parcels and enjoy their property rights. Here I've come across an ordinance that's drastically impacting, my property rights and my ability to earn a living on my land and grow cannabis, the crop of my choice, the way that I want to. My husband and I purchased our parcel with plans to go into organic farming, and we were excited when the LCB regulations came out and were so small business friendly that we could go into cannabis and hopefully use that to bankroll our other farming operations. I think that this ordinance as it stands is really counter to the GMA, which is, part of it is about protecting agricultural viability viability, and cannabis is a productive crop. You can earn a living off of a, half an acre of cannabis. And if I want to earn a living off of cannabis and use that to help fund some other farming activities, I believe I should be able to do that. Rather than outright banning outdoor cannabis, I think that we should be looking at perhaps increasing the minimum parcel size. I know that early on there was some back and forth about what that minimum parcel size should be, and I have to acknowledge there are some farms that are maybe poorly sited, so I think, increasing that minimum parcel size I think would be a good option here, but I really encourage you not to ban outdoor cannabis production. It is, more environmentally friendly, more sustainable option, and I just believe, as a farmer, I should be able to grow my crop the way that I want to and be able to do so on my property. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Carl, I think it's Cochran. And if I do mispronounce your name, it's not out of intent. It's sometimes just a challenge of reading the handwriting and stuff, so bear with me.
Yeah, as you stated, my name's Carl Coran. I live in Spokane County in what's classified as rural traditional. And I heard Crystal mention what's allowed on there. She pretty much hit on every topic that's allowed in rural traditional. But I will tell you that under RCWs, it makes it very clear in the state of Washington that marijuana is not an agricultural crop. They want to thank their farmers. It's a Schedule I drug and is classified by the state as a Schedule I drug. I'm not here to beat up on the marijuana industry. I'm here to explain that we live in rural traditional. The county has already written those regulations. I would no longer want a mobile paint booth, a Costco, a warehouse, or anything else next to me. So it's not just about marijuana and what they'll claim are the moral issues of that. I moved to rural traditional, so as Crystal stated, I could smell the horses, I could hear somebody shooting, the dog barking. I didn't move to rural traditional to witness and smell a stench that makes it unable to use your property. I didn't move there to see 15 cars parked at, in a commercial manner with people driving up and down the road all times of the night. So there are some things that I assumed I had in rural traditional, and then the rules changed. So I'm here to commend you for your moratorium. I wanted to also state that I was a member as the affected public on the MAC Advisory Committee. So as part of that, I heard Ms. Quinn talk about the complaints. My experience in the community is for all the complaints that are in there, there's 5 to 10 more people that don't know that they have the avenue through Spokane Regional Clean Air to complain about the smell, and they haven't done that. Or they have a perception that there may be retribution because of it. Their words, not mine. So there are a lot of people out there that are affected by this and just haven't come forward. So the practices are in place. As part of that committee, we had another grower that was in a light industrial area, had hard-sided building. We took a tour of the facility. It was a very well-run facility. No smell outside the facility. So the best management practices are in place. It just doesn't belong in a rural traditional area, a venue. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Kim Hoff. H-O-F-F? Oh, and you're going to yield your time. Who are you going to yield your time to? Or are you going to go ahead and speak?
I'm here to speak.
Great.
Okay. So my name is Kim Hoff. Me and my husband own the Flying High Farms located in Otis Orchards. We are a Tier 2 producer processor. We have been licensed for about 3 years now. We're on a 26-acre parcel, rural traditional. Right now, we are a 20-person operation with our outdoor that we expanded to this next year because we have not put plants outside, but we've already did everything to do for the first of this next year. We will probably employ over 60 people in Spokane County. Most of my people are here today, right over here and up there. Anyway, what I think a major obstacle in this thing is that there needs to be a definition. For the LCB, that their definition of outdoor is anything in a greenhouse, hoop house, anything. There's a concentration of odors. When I was talking to Mrs. Oliver here, she said that there hadn't been a complaint of an open air grow. It was all because of concentrated smells, which was a very interesting point that she had made to us. So, I mean, I'm asking you guys to kind of even make a definition of what you guys consider of an outdoor grow. I mean, the LCB is anything that is sun-grown is outdoor grow. I mean, they don't care if it's in a hoop house, pieces of plastic, whatever. Greenhouse is an outdoor grow. I mean, anything like that. So you guys need to figure out exactly that before we make any things on an outdoor grow, because there's different things that are an outdoor grow. What I'd like to also say, you know, my business, we've got all these people. We support people in our community. I support Grow Gear, Spokane Hydroponics, Wilbur Ellis, Northwest Seed and Pet, Cash and Carry, Oxart, Propane, Aeropropane, Green Thumb Industries, Otis Orchards Hardware, Growers United, River City Pizza for my employees every week, Ace Hardware, Ziggy's Hardware, RDI Heating and Cooling. We have employees that have over 3 daycares that my employees use. We use Sticker Shock. I always buy Dutch Brothers for my employees. You know, we are supporting a good portion of this community and don't need to be, that's what you guys need to look at too. We are an active part of this community and we support it. There's more than just they're a grower. We're an active part of this whole community, and people other than us are relying, my employees rely on me, and there are people out there that rely on them to spend their money too. So that's pretty much all I have for today. I mean, there's Debbie and Bailey and Liz and Logan and Justin and Steve all up there. Okay, thank you.
Next person, yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner Quinn.
So actually, this is for the Clean Air Agency. When you put together the information for us as to who the complaints were for, could you also indicate the type of operation that they have? Because we did have this conversation earlier today where we were talking about outdoor grows versus greenhouses versus completely indoor solid buildings, and it would be helpful for me if I could actually see where the majority of the plaints are coming from.
To the extent we can, we
Correct.
will. I will caution that many are a combination indoor and outdoor, and we
And
can't
right
tell you
combo.
which. So we'll do that to the extent we can.
If you have the information, that would be fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you.
And when I get this information, I will send it to the clerk of the board. Then.
Okay, very good. So next person I have signed up is Anthony Birch.
Yes, my name is Anthony Birch. I'm a downwinder. I have written comments.
Excuse me, sir. I made the comment at the beginning of the meeting that there will not be any expressions made either clapping out loud. If you do it again, I'm going to ask you to leave. This is a legislative process. This is not a cheering section. All right.
First of all, I'm not critical of the Clean Air Agency. They're doing the best they can with their budget. We have a location that's close by us in an area of nice homes. The difficulty in our area is we have a prevailing wind. There has been a large outdoor grow operation located in our area. Outdoor grow, and there's some confusion here. but the regulations say that any soft-sided greenhouse is an outdoor grow. End of statement. There is no gray area. It is classified as an open grow regardless of how large it is. Marijuana has been pointed out is not an agricultural product. That's clear in the regulations that now exist. It does not, in a soft-sided facility that we experience, it does not produce just in October. It's a year-round production. We are subjected to a year-round odor 24/7. Commissioners must find a way of enforcing the odor output for what you have defined as an outdoor grow. Soft-sided greenhouses that simply roll up their sides on a nice day, letting the odor, I mean, you can't obviously control the odor with a soft-sided greenhouse. This particular facility is large. They have many employees. There, in the summertime and in the fall, there's a huge dust problem. The county requires gravel pits to treat their driveways and their parking lots. In this particular facility, on a dirt road and a dirt parking lot, there is no dust control. So now we're experiencing in the fall, particularly a dust problem from a large number of employees in this facility. There's also now a light pollution problem. It's amazing now. Our vista, if you will, is now complicated. There's a large, the sun is now rising and setting in one spot in our environment. There's been mention of the economic benefit. The economic benefit to customers, the employees, would be the same as if you had this in a light industrial area. But large plants that are producing marijuana in large quantities, producing large amounts of odor, should not be considered agriculture, should not be considered open grow, should be controlled and with the existing filtration processes that are available. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. Next person I have signed up is Roger Birch, B-E-R-T-C-H. Okay.
We just share the same name. I'm Roger Birch. I live at 3606 West Washington Road, Spokane, Washington, 99224, part of the county. First, I'd like to thank Commissioners Al French, Shelley O'Quinn, and Josh Kerns for holding this hearing. My statement is fairly brief. I live across the street, and with prevailing winds, we are generally downwind from the Bangs Cannabis Farm. Bangs Cannabis Farm emits a skunk-like odor that ranges from near eye-watering pungent smell to a passing whiff. This smell can travel a considerable distance, as our neighbors a half-mile away can testify. To digress for a moment, occasional visitors to the Spokane Municipal Airport at Phelps Field will believe the airport has a skunk infantation smell. Many are not aware there's a cannabis farm, perhaps similar to Bangs, in terms of production that's just across the railroad tracks. There's also a rendering plant, and for you old-timers, probably Al here, you may remember that emitted a very strong objectionable odor. However, through air filtration and other systems, that plant appears to be no longer a source of complaints by nearby residents and business owners. Our country is founded on principles including majority rule and minority rights. Regretfully, in recent years, initiative and legislative at all levels of government has been written and placed up for vote with less than adequate preparation and review. So it was with the Washington State Cannabis Initiative. No one thought there'd be repercussions from the initiative. There are, and one of these is the smell of growing cannabis. As I mentioned earlier, we live across from the Bangs Cannabis Farm, and we have made several complaints to the Spokane Regional Air Quality Board. I believe, Al, you serve on that board. I'd like to thank that board for their efforts because they are trying to support clean air in our rural neighborhood. Our neighbors own homes on acreage ranging from 5 to 40 acres. I think we are all seeking the good country life that included clean, fresh air. Having served as a director in the Department of Defense during the Reagan administration, I understand many aspects and processes of government. We applied to the Spokane County Assessor for a 20% reduction and our 2017 property tax. That request was denied because our assessment was in line with similar properties in Spokane County. However, none of the comparables were across the street from the obnoxious odors emitted by a cannabis farm. Following due process, we appealed to the Board of Equalization, and by a vote of 3-2, we were granted a 10% reduction in our 2017 property tax. I would note that since this decision, the bank's cannabis farm has grown from 1 to 5 greenhouses. I have no objection to the laws of the state of Washington protect the cannabis industry. It is, after all, a source of revenue for our government. However, when the growing of cannabis in residential areas, including those in rural residential areas, pollutes the air with skunk smell, I believe it to be wrong. It causes economic harm to affected homeowners like me. We, the people, will continue to exercise our legal rights as citizens to oppose the pollution of the air with the skunk smell of growing cannabis. There are solutions to this problem, and these may cost money. If the fledgling cannabis industries, especially the growers, are financially struggling to comply with a moral clean air requirement not to pollute the air with skunk smell, it may be reasonable to request help from government through incentives like tax credits. As for adjacent property owners like me, it is our right to object and to request a reduction of property taxes until a reasonable solution is found. I would encourage my neighbors, anybody adversely affected by the smell of growing cannabis, to request a property tax reduction. Respectfully submitted, Roger Birch, and I'll leave this copy for the record.
Thank you, sir. Next person is Stephen Johnson. Thank you, sir. Next person is Reverend Alicia Birch Johnson. Hopefully I got that right. Close enough.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Reverend Alyssa Birch Johnson. I'm an ordained United Methodist clergywoman serving in the Spokane area. And for full disclosure, my father is Roger Birch. I live about 1.5 miles away from Bangs Cannabis, and I regularly, on a daily basis, visit my parents' home. And also, though it may surprise many here, I did support and continue to support the legalization of cannabis in Washington state. And so I rise to speak against the moratorium. I rise to speak against it because I don't believe it actually fixes the solution. As Commissioner O'Quinn said, most of the complaints relate to 1, maybe 2 to 3 other cannabis grows. Bangs Cannabis has received the most complaints, and it's because they've been unwilling to listen to their neighbors. As a pastor, I of course go to the Bible for wisdom. Jesus Christ said, if you have a problem with someone, you should go and speak to them. If they won't listen, you should take a handful others. If they still won't listen, you should go before your entire community. We are here tonight and we have this moratorium because one cannabis grow was unwilling to work with their neighborhood, unwilling to listen to the individual complaints or even the Spokane Clear Air Agency. And so we're here tonight with a moratorium that affects more than just one cannabis grow. It affects many. I've heard stories from tonight, from reading the newspaper, from going online, that there are a number of very responsible and community invested cannabis growers who are doing outdoor grows and not impacting their neighbors, or if they do, are responding to their complaints. And so I speak against the moratorium to acknowledge the problem is just one particular grow, maybe a handful of others. Perhaps better regulation, again, looking at the size of the land that it's grown upon, looking at the neighborhood dynamics, giving the public an opportunity, the community, to actually say something when they find out a cannabis grow is coming in. So thank you for the chance to talk, and I thank you very much for actually bringing up this, for this discussion for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have signed up is Kevin Oliver.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having this hearing, for the opportunity to speak. Respectfully, the gentleman who suggested that marijuana is not classified as agriculture, they're referring to RCW 82.04. It's a DOR, Department of Revenue classification, affecting farm taxation only. During the floor debate in Olympia on SB 6505 in 2014, which became codified by law as RCW 82.04, every legislator who testified, either for or against taxing marijuana farmers as actual farmers, every legislator who testified on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, testified that marijuana is in fact agriculture. But marijuana farmers don't deserve tax breaks, not at the federal level, not at the agricultural level, because we're a controlled substance. That decision is going to change in the Washington State Legislature either this session or next. This guide industry lobbying, it's gone. Marijuana is in fact classified by agriculture by the Washington State Department of Agriculture, just as a matter of fact. I wish I could appeal to the Board of Equalization so my taxes could go down. I mean, I gotta applaud this guy. I know I'm not supposed to clap. I wish all our property taxes could go down. In fact, mine went up because I'm a marijuana farmer. In fact, everyone who owns a marijuana business in Spokane County, their property taxes went up, resulting in a large net increase, I assume, over the one parcel that got their tax reduced, to the greater Spokane County tax base. Again, I wish I could get my taxes reduced federally, agriculturally, and property-wise, but all my taxes keep going up and up and up. Our property has received no complaints. We're an open-air grow on 10 acres in light track agriculture. Our neighbors love us. This ordinance unfairly discriminates against our environmentally friendly and naturally sustainable farming and gardening practices in our small tract agricultural parcel located in Spokane County. We use no pesticides, we use no fertilizers, but for organic, all-natural ingredients. You could eat our marijuana, it'd be healthier for you than most processed foods. I got more, but I don't want to get, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have signed up is Aaron Inman.
I too want to thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you about the things that we're doing and help create a solution to this problem. And this apparently is a problem, and the problems need solutions and questions need answers. One of the things we're probably attempting to achieve is to come up with these answers in order to create a solution where both sides of the aisle are, at least their concerns are addressed. I have 2 Tier 3s on my property. I am an outdoor sustainability company, meaning that I really, it's all of us in here that are growing are barely making it as is. Outdoor farming is the only way that I can even stay in the business because it seems like we spend more money than we make. I see people lose their livelihood, going bankrupt, in severe agony and pain financially and emotionally because of the burdens the regulations already put on us. And some of these farms can only stay in business if they're allowed to grow outdoors. A big thing about the whole 502 and the allowance of the outdoor grows is it allowed the mom and pops to actually get into a business and where they can attempt to make a living. It's harder than it looks. By forcing the grows indoor, and I applaud Spokane County because we have like 140, at 39 counties, we have 140 plus licensed growers, so I applaud the efforts that you guys have done so far. I would like to continue to work with you guys and the stakeholders in your I actually have some key points, but I really encourage the Planning Commission to reach out to a lot of, or some of, or one of the people that are outdoor growing to, as a sounding board to answer questions. This is a broad brush stroke. As already been stated, a couple farms. I'm an outdoor, I have 2 Tier 3s and no complaints. I don't have any neighbors. So it seems like, to address, if you're gonna address an issue, like a dog at large issue, you're gonna address the owner and the issue at hand. You're not gonna tell everybody, well, you're really gonna ticket them. I know I've had a dog at large ticket. My neighbor didn't get that dog at large ticket, I got it. So if there's players in the field that we're in, if you reach out to us and like somebody's getting complaints, I'd be more than happy to reach out to them and say, hey, look, you know, you're impacting the entire community here. And then you got to think about the grandfathering. And I don't know where in this process the grandfathering in it is, but I know there's a lot of farms that are still in process. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I do want to point out one thing. You know, this board was one of the first counties in the state that developed regulations that would allow this industry to occur. There are a lot of counties in the state that said, not in our backyard, and just said no to marijuana for whatever reason. But we tried to find a balance because 52% of the voters in the county said yes to the Initiative 502. So this is not a debate about whether we should or should not be allowing marijuana grows. That's decisions already been made by the voters. What we're trying to do is find what's that right balance in the regulations that allows the industry to grow but doesn't have negative impacts and stuff. So, you know, I don't want to leave anybody with the impression, I think one individual said that this is a political agenda. We've already, that decision's already been made by the voters, so we're just trying to find where's that happy medium. Next person, Commissioner Quinn, thank you.
Can I ask you a couple of questions? Where are you located?
North of Airway Heights,
And you said you have no neighbors, so what size of,
rural traditional,
what size of parcel do you have?
10 acres.
10 acres? You just happen to have no neighbors?
Right,
And then are you completely outdoor, or are you?
completely outdoor.
Do you have a
I have some plans to bring greenhouses.
greenhouse?
I
Thank
have
you.
plans to bring in greenhouses, and I don't know how this is going to impact me. If it does, then I'm moving my farms.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Next person is Aaron Jewell.
Hi, my name's Aaron Jewell, and I'm the owner of Funky Farms, a Tier 1 marijuana producer processor located just north of Spokane. I pose this resolution. It's completely unfair to me, my business, my family, and my employees. I operate a very small indoor marijuana growing facility, and I had planned on putting a fence around my existing facility to accommodate some outdoor plants covered by hoop houses, and then eventually build some permanent greenhouses. I'm a little snowed in at the moment, but as soon as the snow goes away, I need to get a fence constructed so that I can be ready for this year's growing season. Any delays or denial of permitting is going to be devastating to me and my business and my employees that have worked so hard and are relying on me to make this happen. I chose to locate my business well over 300 feet from anyone's house outside the city limits and in a heavily wooded area that makes my farm impossible to see from the main road. And I feel that I've done everything humanly possible to make sure that my business does not negatively impact anyone that lives in that area. If I'm allowed to finish my build out and construct this fence, I can promise you that my small marijuana garden is not going to impact public safety in any way. And I can see why some people might not want to have a marijuana growing on every other block in their residential neighborhood. Please, let's make a fair decision that allows for state licensed I-502 marijuana producers to upgrade their operations like any other farm or business would do.
Thank you, sir. Next person I have is Sam, and I think it's Canal. It looks like it's a K-A-N-N-A-L-L. I'm going to guess that I really got that one wrong.
Cannell.
Cannell, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us here today. My name is Samuel Cannell. I run a small business called Bodie High. We are a producer processor. We converted into the I-502 market from medical in March of this last year and grew our small business from a 5-person company into a 25-person company now. We have leased a piece of property in Spokane County to build out a farm. We've put substantial amounts of money into that farm and into the local community and the local vendors there. I think it would be very detrimental for Spokane to, keep this ordinance going into place. I think it would have a big economic effect on our community. And my suggestion would be to adjust some of the current lot line adjustments that we have in place and, compare cannabis to possibly pig farming or something else that puts off a very strong odor. And just come to some sort of a balanced solution that meets everybody's needs and keeps this great industry moving forward in Spokane County. A large part of the cannabis being grown for the state is in Spokane County, and it's bringing a lot of jobs and a lot of good revenue to our area. So we hope to continue to work together.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Are you an indoor or outdoor combo?
We have a combo. We have greenhouse and outdoor production. We're looking to expand into outdoor production this year. It is the most sustainable way to grow cannabis and one of the best ways for small businesses like mine to stay afloat during the year. We would be happy to look at other forms of odor control for our greenhouses or better setbacks to meet the requirements of the county and be good neighbors.
Thank you.
The next person I have signed up is Lucretia Hill.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I recently actually left philanthropy and the nonprofit industry specifically because I knew that cannabis would have a huge effect on our community. After years of studying poverty and understanding how we can change that for our community members, I knew this new industry would directly impact us in the most positive way. I currently work for BoCC and am involved in the people resources and process mapping for the work that we do. Our long-term plans is to grow cannabis outside. We understand that there's really something special that happens to cannabis when it has the opportunity to touch the sun, and we want to make sure that that opportunity gets to happen, and that people who rely on this plant not just for a livelihood and for economy, but for their health, have that opportunity as well. We currently employ 25 people. With the expansion of our farm, we can employ up to 50 people. In addition to that, we've spent over $200,000 in the last 9 months with vendors throughout this county. And so it is really important to us that we're able to continue to grow as a business and see our long-term vision of addressing food insecurities and really helping our community have real paying jobs that affect our community in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have signed up is Janet Pino. Great, thank you very much. Dan Pino.
My name's Dan Pino, and I live in between Spokane and Cheney. I just want to say, first off, that the clean air people have been really good to us throughout this whole process. Personally, I felt like the county people have more or less turned a deaf ear on our plight. I appreciate that this thing at the end of the day is all about money. But I'll tell you something, I voted for the legalization of marijuana. I didn't oppose it. But I live real close to one of these farms, and this is not your father's farm, nor your grandfather's farm. The sky's lit up at night. It looks like the Las Vegas Strip out there half the time. It smells. Friends come to our house and they say, "What is that?" And I read in the newspaper where the owner of the Bang marijuana farm says, "Well, it doesn't extend beyond our property line, the smell." Well, I would invite any of you out here. I take my dogs out every night at 9, and there's a lot of smell there at our place. And it's in listening to the other comments from other people here, it seems to me that the issue is density of housing. We live in a residential, rural area, and this thing belongs with asphalt plants and rendering plants. It just does. It doesn't belong in a residential area where people breathe the air every night. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, sir. Next person I have, because of the length of the testimony and everything, when it gets to 7 o'clock, we're going to take a comfort break. So I just thought I'd let you know ahead of time that you got that to look forward to. Mark Collins.
Good evening. My name is Mark Collins. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Me and my family own a Tier 2 producer production license. We grow here locally in Airway Heights. We have plans for hopefully later on this year expanding to an outdoor grow, not only to expand our business, but because it's more sustainable on the energy side. Right now, we spend between $6,000 and $7,000 a month just on electricity. That's not good for our environment. It's not good for our business. If these ordinances were to stay into place, we may not be able to do that. We may have to look at other communities to join or move to have that opportunity. Right now in this community, we employ 10 people, and just like many of other companies out here have said, we spend all our money on local vendors. You know, we really haven't turned a bunch of profit yet. It all goes back out into this community, into our employees, and our future might be impacted by that. One other thing I'd like to make is we are agriculture. WSDA regulates us. There's a PICO database we have to apply by. So we are agricultural. It's a tax purpose we're not. That's going to change. It'd be nice if we were treated like agricultural just as much. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. So the next person I have signed up is Thomas Snyder.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a Tier 2 producer processor in Spokane County, and I'd like to touch on what the Reverend was saying and what O'Quinn was saying as well. I don't feel it's fair to impose a moratorium on business owners that are listening to their neighbors, are following the rules, and don't have any complaints when there are certain individuals that are having excessive amounts of complaints. I feel that this should be addressed on a case-to-case basis, as well as new farms on a case-to-case basis. I don't think that there's a majority enough of new businesses and expanding businesses that you cannot handle this on a case-to-case basis and deal with these people individually instead of posing blanket restrictions over the entire industry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next individual I have, I'm not going to try the first name. Last name is Kramer, K-R-A-M-E-R? Scott, thank you. Now I see it, yeah.
Thank you. Feel like the belle of the ball. I am the CEO of Bangs Cannabis. We've been talked about a lot tonight. A lot of heartfelt testimonies. I think we can answer some of the questions that I did hear come out of here. For us, we personally have had, check please audit my numbers because we went through these. We've had 91 complaints written about us. And most of these complaints, if you go through them, out of the 91 complaints, we've had 2 confirmed smells. 2. Out of 91 complaints, we've had 2 confirmed smells. Out of the 91 complaints that we've had, 42, because some of the times they did not come out because the complaint came in on the weekend or at night or something. Out of the 42 complaints that were out tested, we only had 2 of those tests come up positive. In both of those tests, we were fine with. Out of all those tests, we had almost 95% of the tests taken by air quality come up negative. So us as operators, we have been operating from statistics where we feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. we have been listening to the neighbors. We have been listening to air quality. We have employed air quality technology that we vetted out through the engineers at air quality. Joe looked at it. It is a fantastic solution to what we believe is our responsibility to the odor that it produces. We run a greenhouse. I think everybody's talked about different parts of a greenhouse that are good and bad, and I think everybody needs to understand that we might be 5 greenhouses, but we've only operated 1 flower greenhouse, and out of 2,000 square feet that are in current operation, only 400 of that square feet is ever in a flower at one point in time. That is a tiny, tiny plot of land that is producing any smell. And we are mixing ozone with that smell as we exhaust it out, which it completely eliminates the odor. It's different than masking that you guys brought up that question. I was in the casino business for 30 years. I've dealt with smoke, and I brought this technology from the casino business where we use ozone in order to treat the cigarette smell in the casinos. It's ozone it's completely natural. It comes out of the air, it mixes with the odor, it neutralizes it, and it smells like rain. That's what we've done as an operation. And if you look through the complaints, this is a complaint-based system. And I think we are the poster boys of the problems, because it's not about smell. It's about, some of this is about the pure moral objectivity to us being there. I think we've done everything we can as a business, and we will continue to deploy everything we possibly can to eliminate the smell. But I also offer any one of you guys to come out to our property lines, and I'll meet you there. I mean, any day of the week, and we can talk about what reality is. Is there a smell? We'll deal with it. That's our promise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I had a question, if I could.
Commissioner Kerns.
There's been discussion about sizes of parcels. How large is your parcel that you operate off of?
We're over 9 acres.
9 acres?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is it, so the indoor and outdoor?
We're all greenhouse, so it's
You're all
fully,
greenhouse.
it's fully
Okay.
contained.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next person I have signed up is, I think, Patrick Bang. Okay, thank you, sir. Next person is Robert Kaniel, Kainel.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Robert Keenel.
Thank you.
I manage MR Wholesale's processing facility here in Spokane. We employ 22 people at our site. Most of our employees have young dependents. The outdoor ban directly affects our company. We are an oil processing facility. We rely on outdoor crops to feed our machines, and without a good supply of outdoor material, we cannot maintain a successful company. Outdoor growing is the most energy efficient way of growing, which is beneficial for the environment. This also helps keep costs down for farmers, not to mention the fact that Spokane has the perfect weather for outdoor cultivation. I am personally in the process of purchasing a farm. I have acreage in Spokane County. Our plan is to grow outdoor and in greenhouses. The outdoor ban makes my purchase exponentially more expensive. Marijuana crops are agricultural, and it needs to be treated as such. I want to ask you, how can you ban agriculture? There are plenty of things in the industry that produces odors. For example, onion farms have a strong odor, yet I see no one trying to ban an onion farm. I feel this is an unfair assassination attempt on the marijuana industry. This measure will affect hundreds, if not thousands, of workers and their families right here in the Spokane area. A few complaints from the neighbors on these farms should not be able to impact this many people and their families. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you, sir. Next person I have is Joshua Zaretsky.
Hello, my name is Joshua Zaretsky. I have one business in the second, it's a processing business in the 2nd District at 213 North Stone Street, and our farm is located in the 3rd District at 6805 West Dino Road, Spokane, Washington 99224. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak today. I am appearing today to make 2 brief points. First, we in the industry are not asking for special treatment. We are asking to simply have the same types of regulations that would be placed on other businesses located in rural areas which cause a similar impact. When the commissioners adjusted the setbacks for marijuana farms in their previous ordinance, they considered a variety of other activities which had restrictions similar to those imposed on marijuana businesses. As the commissioners recognized in that ordinance, many activities take place in rural areas that neighbors notice, and the regulations imposed on our industry should be commensurate with our impact to those other businesses. And I believe the existing ordinance accomplishes that. The second point that I'd like to make, I believe that the argument that officials are only trying to limit outdoor growing and not the industry in general is fatally flawed. The problem with this logic is Spokane County has a special economic opportunity, and it is because of marijuana grown in sunlight. We have more legal marijuana producers in Spokane County than in any other county in the state of Washington. And the reason for that is because of the combination of our sunshine with the population that we have out here. And so we hope that our esteemed commissioners will recognize the specific attributes that have provided this county with a tremendous growth potential and not hinder us by forcing that industry indoors, which really takes away the advantage that we have here that has given us such potential. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next person I have signed up is Pamela Lemon. You're good? All right. Next person I have signed up is Christine Schuler.
Hello, I'm Christine Schuler, and I'm not affiliated with any of these farms or in the growing industry in any way. My closest to be it, I guess, would be I'm here to represent the end user of the product that's grown. It's an agricultural thing, even though I'm really here to support capitalism as far as this is. This is an agriculture, like they say. So if you ban it outdoor growing, which I guess includes greenhouses as well, that seems very weird. But that sets a precedent, you know, because smell is an opinion. Some people have a really sensitive sense of smell. They can smell something that other people cannot smell. And seems to be that this is a moral issue, more so than pollution of smell. And so I want you to be careful on what you're judging it on. Like I heard some people talk about the number of people visiting or the dust from the dirt roads and things like that. That shouldn't be what this is about at all. If that's a reason, you're gonna like ban all dirt roads or something when it's a hot day. So you gotta be careful to not set a precedent as far as smell from a neighbor. If you're gonna represent people's personal property rights on their farm, you shouldn't just be focused on what the neighbors want. Okay, you can't look at one side's rights over the other side's rights. And so I want you to be really careful of that. It is a product just like anything else. Somebody could be living next to, like that one man said, onions or any other type of product and have complaints. And so I think that, and because this is a new thing, and there's moral issues about it because it's so new, you have to consider that it should be the same as all the other things that we already have. When somebody's growing cherries or apples or anything, there's always going to be somebody who's allergic to that smell, who has a problem with that smell, and there's going to be people who can't even smell it at all. So you got to not set a precedent and allow these people to have their rights. If somebody's allergic to something, they're supposed to stay away from it. If somebody doesn't want to live next to anything, then they shouldn't. You know, and so that's what I wanted to talk about. And somebody said that you needed to define what outdoor is. That sounds like a really good idea there because it's okay. Crops that are grown with the sunshine, they cost less than crops that are grown under lights with all the electricity and the expensive things like that. And so the end user would be spending less money for marijuana grown outdoors, and therefore less taxes would go in. And I want to make sure that this is not about that it's not about, because to ban it for outdoor people, just outdoor or sun-grown, is hurting the poor people. And you need to pay attention to poor people's rights, not just the rich people's rights, where you're worried about their water, property rights for their water and their other things. You should put this into the same category. They have the right to have their product.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next person I have signed up is Cynthia Jensen. You were deferring your comments to Aaron Inman.
Yeah.
Okay, did you want,
Yeah, I have more to say.
okay, go ahead.
Just a couple quick points, and I understand the county's position on cannabis as an agricultural product, but it's treated because the state treats it differently. So there is a balance that needs to be found within that framework. As Kevin Oliver stated, there is an active movement in the legislature to classify cannabis as agriculture. There's also an active movement with the WSDA to have the 25th Commission, Agriculture Commission in Washington State. Both those will definitely solidify cannabis as agriculture. What that might do is put the burden, it might put all the regulatory agencies on their heels, because now the right to farm issues are really going to come about, and the people that are suing the counties and their moratoriums are going to have a lot more clout, so to speak. So just be aware that is not a potential, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So in making these regulatory changes and projections, it's best to keep that in mind. There is, like I said earlier, there's 140 plus farms, and we thank you for that. We tell people Spokane County is really progressive, they're forward thinking, they allow the outdoor grows, they allow more farms, and so we have actually, because of that, because of your actions so far, we've actually brought more economic impact and taxes into Spokane County. And we don't want to turn around and say now, you need to go somewhere else. And I'm afraid that I may have to go somewhere else. And if I have to make sure that my business is alive, then I'll just have to do that. And that's all I have at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have 5 more people signed up to testify. So do you want to take a break, or do you want to power through the last 5 people? Power through? Okay, we're powering through, ladies and gentlemen. So if anybody has to stand up, and the restrooms are just right outside the door here. Next person I have signed up is John Tormino.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Most of what I wanted to say has been covered. The Liquor Control Board, I'm an employee at a farm that's in what's considered forest in the far north part of Spokane County. The nearest house is about 2,500 feet away. And as most of the other people have spoke, it's kind of unfair because the majority of the complaints for this odor problem has been directed towards 1 or 2 locations to restrict all these other small businesses that are bringing revenue and a product that the public wants. So the Liquor Control Board, the farm that I work for, it's called Lakeside Cannabis, and I'm just an employee there. We have a 10,000 square foot canopy that a Tier 2 is allowed. We're using about 3,500 feet of that at this point. And it's fenced by an 8-foot tall fence. Several times when I went up this summer, I could smell when I was within 100 feet or 200 feet. I could smell the fresh marijuana smell. And I don't find it objectionable, although I know some people do. But my question for you is this moratorium, if it does stay in place, which I hope it doesn't, but if it does, the 10,000 foot that a tier 2 is allowed, even though we're only using 3,500 feet at this time, we would like to have other greenhouses or hoop houses in our 10,000 foot canopy. And Lakeside would need your permission, even though the farm is allowed 10,000 feet, we would need your permission to utilize the other 6,500 feet that the tier 2 is allowed. So that's all I got. Thanks very much.
Just one quick question. You said in your experience, when you get within 100 or 200 feet is when you have smelled the odor. Have you guys received complaints from anybody around you?
The nearest house is, well, the man that we rent the ground from, he has 120 acres, and the nearest house other than his is 2,500 feet away. His house is about 600 feet away. And again, it's kind of on top of a mountain, so it gets windier than most places. And as you take the 3/4 mile road up to this house, or up to this farm, excuse me, the prevailing wind up there comes from the southwest. And as you come up the road, you can smell it sometimes, and not every time, but you can smell it sometimes. But I've never smelled it from 500 feet away or 1,000 feet away.
Thank you.
And I'm not a marijuana farmer. I mean, I'm learning the business. I'm a window sales guy here in Spokane. Thanks very much.
Hey, John.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, the moratorium only impacts new producers, growers.
That's
It doesn't impact existing. So it's
So if we're only using 3,500 of the 10,000 feet,
authorized.
I would, at this point, not knowing the specifics, but if you were authorized and have a legally authorized permit to do what you're doing, we wouldn't be able to impact something that was lawfully established.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next person I have signed up is Rick, I think it's Roning. Great.
Just as
Yeah,
just
Commissioner Kerns.
as this gentleman's coming up, if folks were to want to expand their outdoor grow operation, would they be impacted that way? Are they essentially locked into their current boundaries if they buy a neighboring parcel and want to expand? Would that be prevented?
Commissioner, we'd have to look at each of those on a case-by-case basis, but I think that firstly, we would look at what was lawfully established. If they had an outdoor grow that was, say, 5,000 square feet and that was commensurate with their license, essentially anything new would be expansion of what would basically be what's called a non-conforming use. If this ordinance were in place for a lengthy period of time, something that's lawfully established can maintain and keep it, but to expand it would be subject to the regulation.
Okay. Sir.
Hi, my name is Rick Roning. I have a Tier 1 total indoor grow. And one of the things first of all, I want to thank the commissioners in the past for working with us and accommodating. There were a lot of, not my backyarders, and being at Green Bluff, I have a lot of experience with the not my backyarders. But there was great cooperation that allowed us to use our existing facilities and that type of thing. So I want to thank you all for that. I am totally an indoor grow. They've talked about the energy costs. My energy cost is 16.87% of what my gross revenue is. Now, I've been making efforts with that. Over half of my lights in my flowering have been changed to LEDs, which is a light conservation thing. All of the lights we've converted in our growing area, our veg area, also to LEDs. So we're making as much effort as we can in that area. It's very expensive and costly to do that type of thing. With that thought, we would like to expand to, we're only using still a part of our allowable canopy. I would like to do some of that outdoor to save some of those energy costs, as well as just take advantage of what we have in the area. So this would impact that because I have no allotted outdoor grow at this time. I do have experience in greenhouses because I had done ornamentals and hanging flower baskets and that type of thing in greenhouses. I also do cherries and peaches and whatnot up at Green Bluff. But the other thing that I haven't heard mentioned here is that we're on the edge of having hemp being allowed as an agricultural product. That there's no way that it could be economically feasible to grow hemp in greenhouses or indoor. That would have to be done as an outdoor grow to be even close to being economically feasible. So just would like the consideration that we're not just impacting, negatively impacting an existing industry. We would also be curtailing or stopping a future industry that we truly expect to come into the area, which is outdoor hemp. So that's all I had.
Great, thank you, sir. Daniel Harrington.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Daniel Harrington. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to come speak. Some of you might remember my face from the first time we came forward to voice some of these heartfelt opinions. I just kind of listened tonight. I want to commend the audience and all the speakers. There's lots of very insightful points brought forward. Specifically, the one that kind of rang my temple was that they think we are farmers. And I just want to point out that cannabis, I'm a passionate farmer. I do work for Cush Comfort Farms, and I'm a grower there. And we chose our place in rural Spokane County. We're in your district, Mr. French. And we're a living soil, organic-based company. And so we really need the soil, we need the sunshine in order to do what we want to do, is to provide a conscious alternative, cannabis that's grown with minimal impact on the environment in a very healthy and sustainable way. I would like to point out that I feel George Washington would be tremendously offended if you said that he was not a farmer when he farmed hemp, a cousin of medicinal cannabis or recreational cannabis that we grow. This is a seed that I sprout. The 2017 season is already upon us. I'll sprout this coming month in February. We grow a majority of our crop from seed. When I look at the moon cycles, when I look forward to the season that I work with, I know I'm a farmer. I look to the sun, I look to the seasons, I look to the lessons that were brought by many of the generations before who worked the land. In specifics to a few points that I also heard in regards to Spokane clean air, when we consider this smell, I don't think that labeling it a emission or a pollutant is necessary or accurate. We're talking about terpenes, and so just to point out, I went ahead and just looked up a basic definition, and these are organic volatile compounds. Terpenes are fragrant oils that give cannabis its aromatic diversity. These are oils that are secreted in the flower and sticky resin glands, same ones that produce THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids. Terpenes are by no means unique to cannabis. They can be found in many other herbs, fruits, and plants as well. And so to point out, when we talk about this clean, fresh air, like a walk in the forest, well, it is the alpha pinene terpene that does bring the amazing smell that is the forest, right? This fresh pine smell. So for some people, I think that labeling it a pollutant is actually a lack of understanding, and that we should look at what is terpenes. They're well defined. Many backed universities and medical community has put extensive research into it. So I just recommend looking into terpenes. There's a full spectrum. They've been defined and what they are and what we exactly are smelling and dealing with. We were a recipient of one complaint, and in my own understanding, we did not receive a complaint the next year. And from following up, it seems that we had a neighbor down the street that was doing an illicit grow or maybe a medical grow, and that smell had drifted over and caused another neighbor to complain on us. And we dealt with it professionally and want to respond to the best of our needs, but just pointing out that some of these complaints might not even be dealing with licensed facilities. And lastly, You know, I live out in Spokane Valley, and so a few of the things that could be considered objectionable smells would be maybe the Millwood paper plant. If I step into an elevator or down at the mall, the colognes and perfumes, the Franz Bakery near Home Depot, which I too oftenly support. I know the rendering plant you mentioned, which got some assistance in its odor. The fast food alley on 3rd Avenue, those oily McDonald's French fries sure don't make me feel great, but, and also anywhere near I-90 where there's a heavy exhaust. There's lots of times we're gonna deal with prevalent smells, and I just ask that you can see cannabis that comes from a seed and is grown like many other agricultural crops, that you can keep that in consideration, and we can find a equitable solution that doesn't negatively impact the vast majority of these 140 plus producer that are holding a license here, and maybe the few that are causing some of the significant issues, we can work on more of a tribal meeting or a council to figure out a better way to handle it. So once again, thanks for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person I have signed up is Max Johnston. And then after Max is Lance Lorz, L-O-R-Z, I believe.
Commissioners, good evening. I'm Max Johnston. I am the financier and a co-owner of MR Wholesale. And I would like to speak to a couple of points here. The first one being the economic impact of this industry on the county. We are a Tier 2 producer, and we have about 40 employees. That's 40 families that we keep employed and warm. And probably had a nice Christmas. Our volume was about $2 million in 2016 through November. That amounts to a retail value. Again, we're wholesale only, that's all we can be, but the retail value of this is over $6 million. This generated state tax revenue of over $2 million. That's just us. Other economic benefits that I think have to be considered, and you probably know this number better than I, but according to the information I have, the Spokane County received over $440,000 as a participation rebate from the state. And you probably know that the Washington Cannabis Association is trying to increase that. So this has a huge economic impact, and that's to say nothing of the $500,000 or so it took to build this enterprise, the merchants that we did business with during the build-out. So there is a lot of economic benefit to this enterprise to the county. And I think that when you look at the pros and cons and how many people are being impacted by odors, you have to look at how much good is being done on the other side. I know we have had some complaints. We've had a couple of dozen, and 18 of them have been by one person. And some of those have come in the middle of the night, which is sort of curious to me. But it's really just very few people that are being impacted in a negative way. We have other neighbors that are fine with us. So it's really boils down to literally a handful of people versus the millions of dollars we're generating. And I think you have to look at that balance. On the subject of odor, I've talked to the gentleman that's had most of the complaints. I try to get along with my neighbors, and I get along with him. And he said, well, the smell is so nauseating, sometimes it makes me sick to my stomach. He said it made him throw up once. I personally find the smell pleasant. It's kind of musky, it's a little sweet, but I'm around it all the time, and I find it to be a pleasant smell. So it is subjective, and I think that as a subjective experience, you have to not be too rigid in how you legislate that. To take another farm example, there's such a thing as fainting goats. They will pass out if you clap your hands. I don't think we're going to pass a law against clapping your hands. You're just going to have to say, well, those goats if you're going to have that animal in the farm, you're going to have to deal with it. The last thing I will add just real quickly on the subject of greenhouses. We have greenhouses as well as outdoor, and we do not roll those sides up. I'm in the heating and cooling business, the air moving business. I'm actively working to come up and devise a method of controlling the odor, and I'm making some pretty good progress on it, actually. So I think this industry is new, and the odor control is new, and you have to give it some time to evolve. So,
thank you, sir. So the last person I have signed up is Lance. I think it's L-O-R-Z. Lars, thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Lance, and I work at a company actually in Stevens County. We are not impacted by this, but find it, very interesting just to be here and see how everybody's comments are taken and everybody's opinion. I feel that unfortunately this is a very broad brush stroke of how to handle a few complaints over cannabis growth, because as most people feel here, I can't help but feel that it is absolutely an agriculturally grown product. I think it was described very, very well by others as to what the process is taken to do this in a way, and most of the people that do this are extremely passionate about what they do and take it very seriously. So in my situation, we've had some small problems here and there with neighbors, but again, some other people have said that typically it's 1 to 2 people that tend to repeatedly over-exaggerate what the issue is, and might not be the easiest people to work with in those situations where you would think that we do try to accommodate and make sure that everybody is equally handled. I think, as most people have said, we do spend a lot of time and money with our employees. We have about 20 employees at our facility as well, and we've been there for more than a year and a half or so, and have helped support many families with wages, along with the entourage effect of everybody else that spends the money directly within these communities and helps lots of small businesses directly in our area. So I hope that you guys would seriously take into effect everybody's points, and that there are fewer people being affected in a negative way versus those that have been affected in a great way. So thanks for taking the time.
So that completes all the people that are signed up to provide any testimony tonight. Is there anybody else that might have walked in later or did not previously talk that wanted to provide any testimony for us tonight? Second call for anybody wanting to provide any testimony tonight. Third and final call for anybody who would like to provide any testimony for us tonight. Seeing nobody coming forward, look to my fellow commissioners. We have a number of options available to us at this point. We could either repeal the interim ordinance. We can affirm the interim ordinance. We have until January 27th to actually act on this. So we can, we talked very briefly this afternoon about the possibility of holding a workshop and taking the testimony that we got tonight. Even if we were to affirm this tonight, all it does is it just takes and keeps the ordinance in place until we find a solution. As I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, our goal is to find a solution. Our goal is not to try and shut down the industry, but somehow we've got to be able to address the concerns that have been raised. And I know that some have liked to have said, well, it's just a couple individuals. If I'm out in the middle of the lake in a rowboat and all of a sudden I got a little pinhole in the middle in that boat that's leaking water, well, the rest of the boat's still floating, but if that little pinhole turns into a big hole, I'm sinking. And so we either deal with it early and try and make sure that we find some kind of equitable way of being able to allow us to move forward, or we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands. And so that's what we're trying to do, is trying to be a little bit more proactive about moving forward on this. So look to my fellow commissioners for some guidance in terms of what you would like to do. Commissioner Kerns.
I certainly support the idea of holding a workshop, bringing in the stakeholders. hearing more impact or more input on how we can make sure that we can come to a resolution that solves this. I mean, you guys said repeatedly, the individuals testifying tonight, about the economic impact that this has had, and I mean, and that's not something that's foreign to us. I mean, we've seen the numbers, but we need to make sure that that private property rights on both sides, the landowners, but also the neighbors, that is being respected across the board. So we need to make sure that that when we adopt something that really allows us to move forward, that it's done correctly, that it's done carefully, and that we do find that middle ground that allows us to move forward.
Commissioner Quinn.
So my challenge with this ordinance is that I don't believe it's actually addressing the issue that we're trying to solve. And I think that was made very clear tonight as we heard the testimony from different folks. So I personally would like to have a workshop where we can take the testimony provided, plus I actually have a bunch of additional data that I would like to collect both from our staff and from the Clean Air Agency so that we can have a data-driven decision as we think through this. I know that there have been a lot of different options thrown out there, increased setbacks. I'll tell you, we beat that horse or pig a lot during the last hearings that we had because of different sizes of parcels and certain setbacks suddenly impact the ability to utilize different parcels. I mean, we have had hours and hours and hours of conversations around this issue. So before we just make a decision that I don't feel like even addresses what we're trying to solve here, I really would like to pull some of the data to be able to look at the nature of the complaints, what types of agencies or grows are actually producing those complaints, their location, what are some of the setbacks? I mean, are we finding that the locations that we have the most complaints from, is it because the next door neighbor happens to be at that 300-foot mark? Or they happen to be located in more of a residential rural area versus the location that was 120 acres on top of a hill? I mean, it really does have, you can see that simply eliminating outdoor grows is not going to solve the problem. I mean, we have indoor grows that are creating problems as well. And I really do, I understand, I've heard the odor issue, actually complaints from inside the city of Spokane Valley and inside the city of Spokane, and those are not outdoor grows. So we really should be looking to address this, the issue from the perspective that solves the problem and not simply puts in an artificial barrier that really doesn't get us where we're trying to go. So I do hear both sides. Those of you who are dealing with the odor issue, I understand. I have smelled the odor. I've, out in the valley, been invited. Again, those were actually inside the city of Spokane Valley, so they were not outdoor grows. I understand your concerns. I personally live in a rural area, would not be happy if I was dealing with that next door. At the same time, I want to make sure that when we do put that solution in place, it actually solves the problem. So I would like to have a workshop. I would like it to be in February. I looked at my calendar. I was going to propose February 9th or 10th. We've got a couple feet of snow on the ground. If we can get this issue resolved before the weather warms up too much, I think it would make everyone happy. So I would like to be efficient in pulling this data together. I know you do need a couple of weeks, so I don't want to put it next week. But if we could do this on February 9th or 10th, throwing that out there. Probably the 9th in the afternoon or any time on the 10th. Then we could have a workshop. We could one of the items that we do need to consider, you did not close public testimony.
No, we did
And
not.
Commission, which I knew that you were not doing, and Commissioner Kerns indicated that he was interested in hearing more information. So I think we need to decide if we're going to allow written testimony between now and then. Workshops, we do not actually take public testimony. But we do need to decide whether we want to allow for written testimony between now and a certain time. My personal preference, if we do that, that we close that by January 31st, so that we actually have time to review the suggestions that are brought in. And my recommendation would be that we limit it to suggestions, ideas, so that it's not, we've heard from you the benefits of the industry, we've heard from you your challenges. What we're looking for are your proposed solutions. That would be my request.
Commissioner Kerns? Okay. So as we look to try and schedule something, looking at my calendar for the 9th and 10th, I'm going to be in Seattle that day. So I was wondering, how does the 8th look? And
Except for SRLJC from noon to 1:30, we can, which is a standing one, we could go
Okay.
before or after that.
Okay, are you available too? So why don't we work to try and schedule a workshop for February 8th for the board and staff, and probably like to include in that, if we can, maybe some representatives from the Clean Air Agency as well. Would that be acceptable? Okay. So to get us to February 8th.
So do we need to set, I'm sorry.
It depends on where I can find location for availability as well for that day. So can we set a date? Can we?
We don't have to set the date right, we don't have to set the location right now. We can do that when staff has had time to put that together and stuff. So we can go ahead, because it's just a workshop, it's not a public hearing.
Right, do we need a time? We don't need the time.
We don't
yet.
need a specific
We can do the
time.
time based on.
Yep.
Okay, we'll just
Yeah.
set the date. It'll be for February 8th.
Right. And to get to February 8th, we have to take an action tonight to extend the interim ordinance.
Before we do that, though, we need to decide on public.
Right. So you wanted to keep the record open until January 31st for written testimony?
If that's acceptable, I would think January 31st, written testimony can be submitted. So I'd
Okay.
like to so move.
Okay.
We don't have, he didn't close it.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't closed it yet. So, so we're going to leave the record open until January 31st for written testimony. Only. And that written testimony will be due to the clerk of the county commissioner by 5 o'clock, or close the business on January 31st. Again, as Commissioner O'Quinn indicated, would really like, if you're going to provide some written testimony, talk about solutions, talk about recommendations that will help us in our workshop to try and find a solution here. We, as she indicated, we hear you with regard to the industry. We hear you with regard to those that are adjacent that have concerns. We got it. What we're looking for now are solutions. So anything that you can offer up would be greatly appreciated.
And bullet points work great.
Yeah.
It does not have to be a long formal letter, just saying from someone who has to read it. Bullet points work really well to go through it and be able to capture your ideas. Just not wanting to put a lot of pressure on you on the whole formal letter thing. Just
Yeah, we're really concerned about your time, not ours. No, I'm just kidding. I can't take any more testimony, so I appreciate it. If you want to talk afterwards. Excuse me, sir. So it doesn't have to be a formal letter. It can just anything in writing delivered to our clerk by 5 o'clock on January 31st. Doesn't have a formal letter. It can be addressed to the Board of County Commissioners. Identify what the topic is so that we know who and how we got to file it. Package it so that, you know, when we get our information, it's got your letter in it or your notes or whatever it is that you want to submit to us. You can either mail it to the courthouse, Spokane County Courthouse. You can email it. You can drop it off. Whatever form you would like to take, Commissioner Quinn.
and not required, but helpful as I go through the information and process it. If you are a producer, processor, owner, if you can put down what you're currently doing, what your current size, acre, if you have setbacks, from your neighbors, if you could just provide some of that background, I found that helpful for those of you who provided that tonight. So if you are providing some solutions or some suggestions, if you can also capture in there a little bit about what your current setup, indoor, outdoor, combo, et cetera. Thank you.
Context really helps us explain or helps us understand the nature of the suggestions and stuff if we've got an idea of whether it's a small grow or large grow. So workshop established for February 8th. We'll publish the official time. Again, it's not a public hearing, but if you want to attend, you're more than welcome to attend. But this is really an opportunity for the commission and staff to take all the testimony and then try and find a path forward for us. So you're more than welcome to come and listen to the dialogue and the debate. That then deals with the workshop. It deals with the status of the hearing. So the only other action we have is, you want to explain the action before us, Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Commissioners. John Peterson again. If you choose to hold the public workshop as you discussed, again, you need to take action no longer than the 27th. I do have a resolution prepared for you to affirm the existing interim ordinance. Again, that will be a placeholder until such time as you want to repeal it or replace it. And again, I prepared this in conjunction with tonight's hearing. Should you choose to affirm it, I can give this to the clerk. And again, this will be a placeholder until such time as you repeal or replace it after the public workshop.
And also for the benefit of the audience, just because we're keeping the ordinance in place, it's just to be able to continue the dialogue. The minute we find a solution, we don't have to wait for 6 months. We can adopt a final ordinance at any time prior to the end of that 6 month. All this does is allows us to keep the dialogue going while we're trying to find a solution. Commissioner Quinn.
Correct. So in the I would make a motion that we affirm the interim zoning ordinance for the production of marijuana in the unincorporated area of Spokane County adopted under Spokane County Resolution number 16-0915.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second, and for the benefit of the record, it is 7:32 on the evening of January 10th. Commissioner Quinn.
Just for the record, want to say this is a process issue. We have to take action on this item prior to the end of prior to January 27th, and because our workshop is not until February 8th, we have to affirm the ordinance in order to continue the conversation. So my previous comments stand that I don't feel the current ordinance addresses the solution that we're looking for the problem that's been identified. But because of the process, that is why I am voting to affirm the ordinance. But it's all relying on the fact that we are having that workshop on February 8th so that we can actually continue to have this dialogue and move this issue forward in a timely manner.
Okay. Commissioner Kerns, any comments you had?
Just again, want to reiterate what Commissioner O'Quinn said, that this is a process. We need and we want your input, your ideas as we move forward. So please stay engaged with this. January 31st is the cutoff. So we've just glanced down. I mean, so we got 3 weeks where we want those ideas. We want the written testimony so that will assist in us as we move forward from here.
Okay, seeing no more discussion, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect the motion passes by a 3-0 vote. That then gets us through item number 4. And so as we had at the beginning of the meeting, we do have another public forum, open public forum for anybody who wants to provide any testimony on anything other than what was on our agenda tonight. So I do not have any sign-up sheets. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to provide any testimony in the open public forum? Second call for anybody wanting to provide testimony. third and final call for anybody who want to provide testimony in our open public forum. Seeing nobody running to the microphone, I'm going to close the open public forum. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Stay safe out there. The roads are slick, and we'll look forward to more conversation. We are adjourned.